dedicated to empowering you with information
to make positive choices
and be advocates for your overall well-being.
Welcome to The Health View. Welcome to The Health View. I'm Yvonne Dunitz, and today we're going to be talking about the Community Emergency Response Team, what you can learn and what you can do to be protected. My guests today are Taylor Frizzell, who is the Emergency Management Coordinator, and with her is Emily Martusello, who's the Program Manager. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Tell us about the CERT program, which is the initials for the Community Emergency
Exactly. So the
Team.
Community Emergency Response Team, like you mentioned, Taylor and I both work for the City of Nashville Office of Emergency Management. And in that program, we have disaster volunteers from the community. And they're part of our CERT team, like you just mentioned. And they do a variety of things for the city, but mainly they help out during emergencies and disasters. If we have a major snowstorm and we need their assistance, power outages, those kind of things, we use the CERT team to help out first responders, work in the shelters, those types of things. But they also work at special events. If you've ever been at Holiday Stroll, you'll see our people out in little green vests. They're helping manage all the things. We were just at the music festival. But beyond that, the CERT team, or the CERT training itself, it's a course for residents to take. It's open to anyone of all ages and abilities, and it gives you the skills you need when there's a disaster to help yourself and help your neighborhood until professional responders are able to get there. And we know from major storms and hurricanes and earthquakes that first responders might not be able to get to you for 3 days. I mean, we saw in the 2008 ice storms, places were isolated for up to a week. So we want to give people the skills and the tools they need to keep themselves and their family safe until more help can get to them. So this curriculum is really about empowering people to take the steps they need to be prepared for their families. And then after you take the training, a lot of people choose to join the team and continue serving their community in that capacity.
Emily, do you also get into awareness for people to know to report certain things that do not look like a common ordeal, and also related to bomb threats or any serious things that may be going on that could affect them in large group settings or by a railroad, by a train and a bus, any type of situation?
Yeah, you bring up a really good thing, and one thing we talk about in any emergency or disaster, or before there's an emergency or disaster, is having situational awareness.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What should people be aware of?
You know, and the thing, we've been conditioned to at least know what to do if a fire alarm goes off. They trained us since we were little kids. But we need to think a little harder about that, and we need to, when we're in public places, look for where our exits are. Don't look for only one, look for two. Don't go to the first one, that's where everyone else is going. So make sure when you're in public places that you're paying attention to the situation around you. You know where you can go if there is an emergency, where someplace safe is, and always have a backup plan. The other thing is simple tips that people need to put in place beforehand. And we say there's 3 things. First of all, make a kit. Have an emergency kit. You want to have one at your home, you want to have one in your car, and at your workplace, because most of the time, we're at work, actually. Emergencies don't usually happen when we're at home. They happen where we're at work.
And what would that emergency kit include?
Yeah, you want to talk about some things you could put into an emergency kit?
Now, in an emergency kit, you're going to want things like an extra change of clothing. Maybe rotate that out during the seasons. When you change your clocks back, change out your clothing in your emergency kit. Things like flashlights, first aid supplies, and not just Band-Aids, something that you can use in a heavy-duty medical emergency. We always suggest having some sturdy boots, maybe a blanket, because everyone loves a good fuzzy blanket. Extra batteries for your flashlight, maybe something to do. Snacks, that's a big one. I get hangry. Water, you're going to get thirsty.
Sanitizer?
Hand sanitizers are really
Backup
big
toilet
one.
paper just in case?
Oh, yes. A toothbrush.
Yes.
Everyone will appreciate that one.
And toothpaste.
Yes.
And
most
if people
definitely.
are looking for a more extensive list, they can go to ready.gov, which has all kinds of resources on how you can build an emergency kit. And some of the other things you need to do is build a plan. And I think that's so important nowadays, and part of the plan is communicating with your family. So we were talking earlier about these different terrorist incidents that have been going around. And, in light of that, we really encourage people to talk with their family members ahead of time and have a plan to notify each other if there's an emergency or if they're involved in that, because you could be anywhere. You could be in New York City, you could be overseas, you could be at a carnival, and something tragic like that could happen.
Or traveling on vacation.
Traveling, and the number one stressor is your family members trying to get a hold of you.
Right.
And you can really alleviate their stress by making sure that you have a clear plan on how you will communicate if something happens, when you'll communicate.
Where you'll meet outside if it needs be.
Absolutely. Have a rally point. Have a place, in your neighborhood where you're going to meet, or if you can't get to your neighborhood, where else will you all meet up? So it's so important for people to talk about these things ahead of time. And the other, tip that we give everybody is you can't be prepared for emergency if you don't know it's happening. And we're so reliant on our cell phones these days that we think we'll magically know if there's an emergency. But you need to have different ways to be notified. So maybe you have the Code Red app on your phone, which will send you emergency alerts. Look up what your local emergency management office has for notifications. Maybe you use social media to be notified. But how are you going to be notified in the middle of the night? And that's why we recommend people have NOAA weather radios, which are silent and they only go off when it's an emergency. So we need people to think about those things. How are they going to be notified that there's an emergency? And in the CERT program, we go over all of these things. We have examples of all of them, and we talk to people about, what are your family's needs? Because every family is unique. If you have a baby in your family, you need other things in your emergency supply kit.
Exactly.
If you have, you care for your elders, they need special equipment. A lot of us are on a lot of medication, and we need to keep extra supplies. I have extra glasses. If I lose these, how am I going to see? So you need to think about all these things, and so being prepared is about customizing something to your family. And in the CERT training, we go over that and help people think through, what are those questions I need to be asking so I'm prepared if something happens.
What are some of those questions people should be asking?
Well, I think they need to ask, what kind of situations would I be in? Do I like to go out a lot? And I might be in a movie theater, and I need to think about, what am I doing at a movie theater? Or, if both parents work, what's their plan for their child at school? Have they talked to their school? Do they know how they'll be notified if an emergency is happening at their school? Do they know where is the school's reunification point? If you have a lot of family members that are spread out and you're in different areas, what are we going to do if we need to come together? Or what if you have limited transportation? What if you're someone who just takes public transportation? How are you going to evacuate in an emergency? Mm-hmm. Now, we have plans for that in the city. We need to share that. That's why we want community members to come together, come to our CERT training, and we want to get that information from people. Thinking about, something we always hear when we ask people, how are you going to be notified of an emergency? They say, oh, the sirens will go off.
Right.
Yep.
Well, we don't have sirens in Nashua anymore. So it's
and a lot of communities don't anymore.
Exactly. So it's great to bring the community into the class and to have that interaction between the emergency management office and community members, get that dialogue going and discuss, how are we going to know that something's happening, and then what are we going to do about it? Because we want to build our emergency plans to address the whole community.
And states have this across the board in the United States, this training, correct? Through the Emergency Management Department?
Yes.
So people can know that in any area of the country, of the United States, they can get this training, as well as once they have their emergency toolbox, as we call it, and they become aware of things. This is going to be part of their lifestyle that they'll have forever. Now, in building awareness, you had mentioned like when you go to the movies or in larger places and things like that, what should people be aware of to know what's right and what might not be right, and who do they notify if something looks strange or out of order?
Yeah, the number one thing we tell people is, look for suspicious behavior, okay?
And what might that be?
And so that would be anything that, this is the great thing about neighborhoods and people who go to places frequently. You know what looks right and what doesn't look right because you're there all the time. If you go to a farmer's market, you look around, you see things, and you'll notice if something is out of place and doesn't look right. But it really is about looking at people's behavior. If they are doing things that look suspicious, that's when you want to go ahead and notify the local police or whoever's there. And there's always a non-emergency number you can call, and when in doubt, you call 911 because that's what they're there for. And it's up to them to make that determination. I don't want anyone to worry about, false alarms. We don't worry about that because we need to err on the side of caution with this kind of stuff. And in the CERT program, we talk a little bit about what those different suspicious behaviors might look like. But I'll go back to one of the, bombings that was stopped in New York City. If you'll remember, there was a bunch of vendors that had trucks on the side of the road down in Times Square, and one of the trucks had been loaded up with explosives. Well, those vendors who were typically there, they saw that vehicle and they're like, this isn't right. I've never seen that here. They notified police and that was stopped. They were able to stop that in the tracks. So ordinary people doing what they do every day, taking the time to say, hey, that doesn't look right, and speak up and say something, they prevented and saved I don't know how many lives. So
it's important to speak up.
It's important to speak up.
Not just pass it by and think that somebody else has done it.
Yes.
Just to do it.
Yes, exactly. And that's
and there are no ramifications.
No,
for a
we want
person who
people to be
speaks up.
empowered and just say,
Exactly.
that looked a little funny to me. Can you go check into it? And it might turn out to be nothing, and that's okay. The police are trained to kind of sort those things out, and it's just really important to give those tips, give those notifications, because it would be real sad to have someone say, I thought I saw something weird and I didn't say anything.
Right.
And we don't want that. So we want people to feel empowered, to take action, to know what they're looking for, and to have those tools in their toolbox, like you said, to make those decisions quickly.
Okay, so now in the CERT training, how can people participate? Is there a cost to the training?
So all of our trainings are completely free.
Okay.
They span over 3 days, so we do a 3-hour portion on Friday night usually, and then a Saturday and Sunday. It's 20 hours total.
Okay.
They are completely free. You leave at the end with a certificate saying that you passed it. We give you a bunch of resources that apply to local alerts like Emily was talking about, as well as the basics for starting a kit.
So
you
who
can
should
build
go
one.
to this?
Everybody.
At what ages?
We usually say 18 plus, but we have teens who take it.
Yep. Usually they come with. I've had families come
Yep.
before, which is great.
Wonderful.
A lot of
Awesome.
couples will come, families will come.
Yep.
It's a fun time, and it's our class. People learn by doing.
Exactly.
So we're gonna
All
hands on.
Wonderful.
Yep. We have a lot of fun in the class. We have American Medical Response come, and we talk about disaster medicine.
Yes.
We talk about triage. We practice light search and rescue. So going out and how if there was a tornado or an earthquake, how are we going to safely rescue our family members if we're trapped in a house? We don't want to become further trapped.
So what would you say to people?
Well, take the training, because there is some very simple things you can do using, cribbing and levers, which is building up things safely so you're able to move people out of harm's way,
Okay.
and so that you don't become part of the problem. And that's the biggest thing we teach in the CERT classes. Do not become part of the problem. Do not get yourself hurt. Do not get yourself trapped, because now we're going to have to rescue you,
Right.
and we're not going to be able to help whoever you were trying to help. So these are just simple skills, but we practice them. We practice lifting a heavy wall off of someone. How are we going to do that using whatever we have around us? How are we going to carry someone long distances if they're injured? We talk about organizing ourselves. If there's an emergency and the neighborhood has to come together, how do we utilize everybody's skills? There must be somebody in the neighborhood who maybe is a nurse, and maybe somebody who does construction. So we can use all those people's skills and teach people how to bring their neighborhood together in an emergency. Because like I said, first responders, on a day-to-day basis, they're maxed out. They're running calls all the time. And when a big disaster strikes, like an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane, our resources are so stretched thin that we're going to just have to focus on the areas where there's the most people who need help, and everyone else is going to have to, manage till we get there. And that's what this is about, keeping your family and your neighborhood safe until we can get more help to where you are.
How do people register, and how often is this course offered?
We offer them 4 times a year.
Okay.
And you can go right online, nashua.nh.gov/CERT, CERT.
Okay.
And then if you're not available to sign up for the upcoming course, we also have a notification list that we'll put you on, and you'll get notifications every time we're offering a new CERT course.
So in other states, where would they go? Would they go to the
You can,
emergency
you know what? You
medical?
can just go to FEMA.gov.
Good.
And if you go to FEMA.gov, you can look up your state, and you can
Exactly.
see all the CERT programs in your state. And the
Excellent.
great thing about this program, like you mentioned earlier, it's a national program.
Right.
We got teams all over the country. This is a real great thing. And in some places like California, this is really serious and important to them because a major earthquake will be devastating, and they want their citizens to be able to help themselves, and that's what this is about, being able to help yourself and being able to help your family. Up here in New England, we don't experience that many disasters, so we kind of utilize our CERT team for other things like I mentioned, and we have just such a great group of volunteers. We have about 166 volunteers, active volunteers.
That have taken the program and then came on as
And then
volunteers?
came on. Yeah, we've trained almost 500 citizens in the CERT program since 2013, and then we have about 166 on the team. And these people are incredible, and simple things they do to help out the community. I think this year, to date, we've almost had 1,000 hours of volunteer time already.
Wonderful.
And they're out, doing training, working, at fires. They'll help out running shelters, at special events. And they're just out in the community and trying to spread the same message we are, which is, be prepared, have a plan for your family so that you don't have to call us for help, that you can be self-sufficient.
And this training is not just for Nashville, are they for surrounding area
Yes.
also? Because that's important to say. So the surrounding greater Nashville community, like
We
the
welcome
other
everyone,
towns?
and we've had people fly here to take our class because, we pride ourselves on having a fantastic class that is hands-on, that is interactive, that brings in our first responders. The fire department always comes for our final drill because this is a community thing. And so, yeah, we draw people from all over New Hampshire. We usually get a lot of people from Massachusetts to come to the class, and occasionally I'll get an email from somebody out of state asking if they can come, and the answer is always yes. We welcome all different kinds of people because that actually makes the class more diverse, and we
Absolutely.
can learn more things.
And you know what's wonderful about this is with this training, you will have it and be able not only to help your family and your local community, but if you happen to be traveling to another state in another area, you can immediately offer assistance by saying you've been trained in this and be able to help another community if something happens, as well as know what to do if something happens in that setting.
Absolutely, and the biggest thing is you won't be a burden because you're going to know what to do and you'll be self-sufficient, and that's the biggest thing. We're trying to make sure that we have a resilient Nashua, that our community is able to bounce back after a disaster and be able to come together and share our resources and share our skills to kind of rebuild. And that's also what the CERT program helps us do, is make sure we have, a community system that we're able to use during a disaster.
And we have this going on throughout not only the state of New Hampshire, not just locally, but in all states in the United States.
Yeah, and every once in a while we get together different CERT teams, so we'll meet other people from New Hampshire, or we'll go down to Massachusetts and meet up with other CERT teams and see what they're doing.
Curriculum is the same?
The curriculum is the same curriculum, and then once you join the team, Taylor, do you want to talk about the trainings that we offer once you join the team?
Yeah, we have some really wonderful opportunities. We have a lot of sheltering courses that we offer.
What do you mean by sheltering?
How to set up and run a shelter. So post-disaster, we might be responsible for running the shelter where people would go if their house floods.
Right,
They need
okay.
a place to
They
stay.
have no power.
Yeah. So we teach our CERT members how to set up and run that.
Okay.
We offer courses on pet sheltering, how to shelter pets.
Which
Right.
people tend
One
to
of my
like a lot more.
Exactly.
People love pets.
Fur things. Some of the recent classes that we offered, we do CPR and AED certifications for our members. That's a really big one.
We do damage assessments, so after a
that's a big
disaster,
one.
our CERT team goes out, they help capture all this information about where there's damage, we help direct first responders to areas that need attention immediately, and our team is really looped in with technology. We try to use a lot of technology, and we work with the GIS or mapping department here in the city, and we're able to go out with our cell phones, and I can track all my team members, and I can see where they are. We do a lot of training with the police department as well, and we do traffic control and crowd management training. We also do active shooter training with the police department, and they teach us some other medical training that we can use in the event that there is some sort of terrorist or mass casualty incident. Our team has special equipment when they're at special events to be able to support the ambulance company and the police department and the fire department when we have an incident like that. And we're always looking for new training. Sometimes we'll do training on sandbagging. We've had some really fun, creative training. We've had a search and rescue class where we had FEMA come in and teach that class. A lot of our team members are trained in ham radio, which is just it's an amateur radio service, and that's great. So we have communication capabilities. But we like to keep our members engaged. So every month there's a free training for them. If not one, there's usually
So you're keeping their skills up to date.
Yes, and we want those skills to be
lifelong learning.
Yeah, and we teach how to go out and do outreach events. So our team members are always out in the community, setting up tables and showing people our disaster kit, so they can learn, what do I need to put in my kit? How do I customize my kit? So that's really important to us, and that's really the mission of the CERT team, is to do community outreach and support first responders. We are their backup system. We're there for them if they need us to do the grunt work, we say. We're not first responders, but we can be their second. And
what do you do? What are the types of things you can do?
We could, if there was an emergency scene, we could help first responders, block off streets and do those jobs that are not technical, so they can use their skills. They need us to set up food and water. We can do that. They need us to, do some documentation. We can also support the Emergency Operations Center and work in there and help updates and do those kind of communication things. And we can work in the shelter. By us working in the shelter, we don't need as many first responders, and they can be on the streets using their technical skills and expertise, and we'll kind of backfill that and do that extra work to make sure that we have enough resources to respond to all the city's needs.
So in summary, how do they sign up to take this CERT training? There's no cost to it. It's offered 4 times a year.
Yep.
Where can they go to find out about it?
Just go right to our website, nashuanh.gov/CERT. All the information's there. Or like Emily said, you can go to FEMA.gov, and they have the listing of all of the CERT classes there as well.
Okay, so you offer it 4 times a year, so they'll see the schedule, and it's 20 hours, and it goes over a period of a few weekends, you were saying?
Yeah, it's usually like a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And so it is kind of a commitment for people to do the whole weekend, but we promise it's worth it, and it's all hands-on and interactive. And the last portion of the training is a full-scale drill. So we practice everything that we've taught you, and we set up a whole disaster scenario, and you have to go out there, you have to rescue people, you have to free them from trapped debris, you have to provide medical aid to them. Other guys, they get cranky. And it's a real fun time, and it's about taking the skills that you have and putting them to use, because so often people listen to a lecture or something like that, but unless you do it, how are you going to learn it? So that's what we're all about, taking what those skills you need and actually putting them into practice.
So the most important things people will learn when they take this class that will be able to apply to them wherever they go, at home, at work, in the community, when they go on vacation, what is it that they will come back with from this taking this weekend class?
I'd have to say some of the biggest things you're going to learn is how to make a plan and what needs to be in your plan.
Related to disasters and emergencies.
Any emergency. But then the other great thing about the class is we talk about the everyday emergency too. How are you going to shut off your utilities if your toilet's overflowing? People think it's that they don't have that awareness. We also actually practice with fire extinguishers. How many people have actually used a fire extinguisher? The first time you use it, you don't want there to be a real fire. So we have a fire that we set up, and everyone gets to practice using it. So I think the value people get from the class is seeing all those things they've heard about, but actually opening them up and playing with them and trying them out. We have electrical panels people can shut off. We practice shutting off gas. If you have natural gas, you can't just shut off your own gas. So we have a meter that you can practice shutting off. We have, people who are willing to play victims, so you can actually practice bandaging and splinting someone. So those are the things that people are going to take away from the class. And most importantly, they're going to have the tools they need to keep themselves and their family safe. And that's what the whole class is about, is being empowered for yourself and for your family.
How many people at a time go into the training, on a weekend training? How many people can you take?
We usually have around 30 people in a class.
Okay, so they do get that individualized attention. And how many instructors are there?
Oh, a lot. We
Yeah,
roll
quite
with
a
a big
few.
crew, and you know, that's the thing. We want people to have hands-on training and being able to ask us a lot of questions. We bring in American Medical Response. There's usually a few of them. We have about 4 or 5 people from our staff. Plus, we bring in our CERT team members, and they've taken the training and they come every time. So, you know, on any given day, you might have 15 trainers there working with all these people because we're running activities and stations, and so it's constant movement, constant, you know, practice and exercise, and it's a really fun time. But the other thing I want to say is it's for all skills and abilities.
very
Okay,
important.
we've had somebody 92 years old take the class.
Excellent.
We've had people, you know, who have functional and access needs take the class.
Great.
We adapt the curriculum so that it makes sure everybody can do it.
So 18 and up.
Yes, and if you're younger, just let us know and come with an adult, and you'll be all right.
Is there a telephone number people could call if, in fact, they wanted to speak with somebody about getting further information about this?
Sure, they can call the Office of Emergency Management.
Which is?
Our phone number there is 603-589-3275.
And the websites that they can go to locally?
Our website's NashuaNH.gov/CERT for the CERT program.
And for the other states?
I would just say FEMA.gov. That's going to be your best resource. Everything's on there.
And in there, they'll get all the information they need. They can register for the class and be ready to go. Yes. Ladies, thank you very much for everything that you do. We appreciate it. Until next time, have a great day.